Good morning. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Welcome to All Souls. Thanks for being here today. My name is Michael Huber. I'm the coordinator today here, and we welcome you here, whether you're a longtime member, first-time visitor, or welcome you all here, and we're glad to have you here wherever faiths you have come from or not come from, whoever you love. We welcome you here and are glad to have you here today. And as far as we'd like to kind of start off with just any announcements that people have. Of course, we do have announcements in the order of service today, so it lists quite a few different things that we have going on throughout the weeks in December. And if you go online, we always have all of our services are broadcast, as today's will be, on YouTube, and so if you have a chance, go out and check that out on YouTube, share it with other folks that you might think may be interested. Were there any other announcements today? I see Alan stepped in, so I'm sure he has some good knowledge to spread to us, and maybe something about the silent auction.
Yeah. So thank you. I'm Alan, and I apologize. Slipped my mind to create a sheet for the silent auction, so I'm going to do that right after the Joys and Concerns. I had a busy weekend with kids, so that's my excuse. But anyway, a silent auction for a gift basket from Natural Grocers. They generously donated a beautiful basket with a lot of good stuff that's worth over $100. So we hope somebody will bid it up high, and that money will also be sent to Rosebud.
Good morning, I'm Eric, and in the order of service, there's a sheet of paper. One of the things that we offer is after the service, a couple of Sundays from now, there'll just be like a 45, 60-minute introduction to All Souls Church and to Unitarian Universalism. So if you have any questions about our denomination, what we do, how we operate this church, fill out the piece of paper and leave it in the collection plate, or else take it home and you can respond online. So if you're curious, here's your chance to find out about the church that you're going to.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Alan. And I just would add that, Dakota Natural Foods, they also donated some of the items that we're sending to the school, right? Yeah. Yes, and Lilia was the person that that contacted us. She heard about what we were doing and that we were raising funds and also raising food and things. So then she's got some different bags that they've created that the kids can have, and different supplies and foods and things. So make sure you support them if you have the chance. And like Alan said, he'll have that basket ready, and hopefully we'll finish that at the end of at the end of the talking circle, or at the end of coffee time, maybe. So if you try to get your bids on that sheet before the end of at the end of service, and then end of coffee time, and then we would announce the winner of that at that time. Good. Any other announcements? Good. All right, and I will do a chalice lighting here, and usually there's something written up for that. Or, I'm sorry, let's go along with first the prelude. That gives us a little moment to be centered here. And it looks like Janet is going to join with you on the prelude. Thank you. Thank you, Janet. Thank you, Carol. And so then we go to, I'm going to try to keep on, because I have this tendency, Carol, to skip around. You don't need that, right? So let's go to 446. Yeah, she's good at adapting, I've found. 446, and I'll go ahead and light the chalice as you read number 446. Maybe Kevin will lead us in reading, since he's up in the front here. Kevin?
To the four directions. Spirit of the east, spirit of air, of morning and springtime, be with us as the sun rises, in times of beginning, times of planting. Inspire us with a fresh breath of courage as we go into the adventures. Spirit of the south, spirit of fire, of moontime and summer, be with us through the best day, and help us be ever growing. Arm us with strength and energy for the work that awaits us. Spirit of the west, spirit of water, of evening and autumn, be with us as the sun sets, and help us enjoy a rich harvest. Flow through cooking and bring on peace. Spirit of the north, spirit of the earth, nighttime and winter, be with us in the darkness, in the time of gestation. Ground us in the wisdom of the changing seasons as we celebrate the spiraling journey of our lives. Words from Joan Goodwin.
Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Usually the chalice lighting is kind of short. I didn't know it was that long. I didn't, one of the coordinators that, the original coordinators when I first started was Mark Sanderson, which I know Rose knows pretty well, Mark Sanderson. One of the things when he trained me back, I think I was trained maybe in the 2000s or something when I first started coming here, and remember he would mark everything that he put into the book, or everything that was supposed to be done, and he taught me well to mark everything. And I've gotten to the point where I'd rather not mark it, because then it takes me a little while to dig for it, because I know it takes you all a while. So I am going to go next to number 118. Let's search for 118 in this book, this little light of mine, and we'll all read together, or sing together. Please stand if you would like to. And then let's find in the back of the book, you can sit if you would like, or stand, whichever you prefer. Number 649 is the next reading. From generation to generation. And I'll read the normal text, and please, you as a congregation, read the italicized. In a house which becomes a home, one hands down and another takes up the heritage of mind and heart, laughter and tears, musings and deeds. Therefore, we do not neglect the ceremonies of our passage when we wed, when we die, and we are blessed with a child. Let us bring up our children. It is not the place of some official to hand to them their heritage. Let us build memories in our children, lest they drag out joyless lives, lest they allow treasures to be lost, because they have not been given the keys. Antoine d'Expiré. And we have next our story, and our speaker today, Leslie, has said she would gladly volunteer to do a story for all those of all ages. So anybody who would like to can come up front here, and she will share a story with you. If you'd like to come up front, you're welcome to. You want the microphone here? One. You can do that.
Can you hear me? No. It is on. Put it a little bit closer. Maybe I just hold it. Can you hear me now? Yeah? No? A little? Okay. 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 Oh, now I can hear it. Okay. I will be reading I Sang You Down from the Stars, written by Tasha Spillett Summer, illustrated by Michael Grode. It's been a long time since I read to students, and I used to be a kindergarten teacher, so I love reading to kids. I sang you down from the stars. I loved you before I met you, before I held you in my arms. I sang you down from the stars. As I searched for your eyes in the sky, I saw a shooting star. I followed it to a fluffy white eagle plume. I held on to it, the first gift in a bundle that will be yours. Summer was fading into fall on the day I found out that you had chosen to make my body your first home. Together we went to gather cedar and sage, medicines that will keep our spirits strong through the winter. When you are old enough, I will teach you how to use them. Into your bundle they go. As the north wind blew, you grew bigger and stronger. Waiting for you taught me about patience and love. With care in my hands, I sewed your first star blanket. With each stitch, I whispered a prayer for you and thought about wrapping you up warm and safe, just like you are now in my belly. Into your bundle it goes. As the ice began to melt, we visited the river. When our people travel the waterways, the song of the rushing rapids call us home. I picked up a small stone for you, so that you always remember you belong to this place. Into your bundle it goes. You arrived in the spring with the waters that come with the ice breaks, when the ice breaks and the rivers flow again. For the first time after our long wait, I looked down at you and found stars in your eyes. Our hearts danced together. I honored your journey from the sky by passing on the gift I had gathered for you. This, my baby, is your sacred medicine bundle. First, I wrapped you in your star blanket and held you close to me. The fluffy plume I found when I followed the shooting star is a reminder that there is beauty all around us. We just have to look and see. Medicines of cedar and sage are for you to keep your spirit strong. When you hold this stone from the river, remember that the land carries stories, and so do you. Family and friends came from near and far to welcome you. One by one, they held you and greeted you. You brought them so much love and joy. I saw that you, my baby, are also a sacred bundle. You are my baby bundle. As I held you close, I whispered in your ear, I loved you before I met you. Before I held you in my arms, I sang you down from the stars. The end. The nice thing about this book is my grandma Rose, she gave this to me while I was carrying my now 2-year-old Creed. So this is the book that I would read to him while he was in my tummy. So thank you for listening.
Spirit of love surround you everywhere you may go. To joys and concerns in this congregation, we found it helpful to share our ups and downs of our lives, by the practice of taking a stone from the bowl, holding it in our hand, warming it, and expressing our thoughts of joy or concern, and then placing the stone into the water so that the ripples of the water carry out our joys and concerns to the wider world. And I'll begin maybe a couple different ones. It's great to have Rose and Leslie here. Rose and I have known each other a very long time, and she's been an inspiration to me for a long time, and she helped us get connected to Leslie and the school, and so it's been great to see the help that this congregation has supported that talk. I wasn't here to see it, but I did get to watch it on YouTube, and so I encourage you all to watch it on YouTube. I enjoyed his talk. His talk was about stories. And there was also something on NPR yesterday about how valuable stories are. I can't think of the program that was on at the time, but maybe somebody else can help. But there was, which was it? Did you catch it? It was about about how valuable stories are, and they just talked about so many aspects of how valuable these stories are to share, from people that have served in some type of a combat role to children knowing their stories, to inmates and people telling stories. Everyone, we have these stories that really connect us, and it reminded me of Dan's talk about stories. So I just encourage you to watch that if you didn't see it. And I'm looking forward to hearing Leslie's story today, and I think that's what we are so much about, is allowing others to tell their stories. So I am joyful for that. And I'll turn it over to you all, and here's a microphone. I forgot to use the microphone. Sorry, I didn't use the microphone. Our first person will. Eric first.
Hello, I'm Eric.
Hello.
It's winter time. It's the time of passage. Okay, it's winter time, and it's a time of passage, of letting things go. A couple of weeks ago, a cousin of mine lost her husband over in England. Last weekend, I lost a brother-in-law. And last weekend, my wife Pat lost a brother-in-law also. It's a time of passage, a time of letting go. But in a couple of weeks, the days are going to start getting longer, and life is going to start anew. And so that's what we welcome, is the passage and the welcoming of new life to come. So thank you. And here are the stones.
Yeah, I'm Alan, and on the holiday, my wife and I were able to watch Dakota Life on South Dakota Public from Mission. It's the program that goes around the state, and it was wonderful to see your place on that program, and especially to hear about Tashina, the Miss Native American World. That was a beautiful story, so I just want to give a shout out to her and to that program on South Dakota Public. And then my family had the joy of being together yesterday for our annual holiday observance in Alcester, where I'm from, and with my 93-year-old mother, and had a great time. But then my mom woke up in the middle of the night with some bad stomach pain, and so she went to the hospital in Haywarden. So a stone of concern for her. But Janine and I had the pleasure of having around our breakfast table this morning 4 grandchildren and 2 daughters and 2 fiancés, and it was a wonderful time, and now we wish them a safe trip back to Wisconsin.
On Friday, Scott and I drove up north of the Twin Cities to go look at a camper van that I had found online. And I'd been looking for a while, thinking this would be just really cool to get. And so we looked at it, and we talked to the owners for a while, and we decided to get it. And so we were too tired. We decided to stay overnight up there, and then we drove home on Saturday. And it took a while to get home. I hope that this whole trip I hope that this whole adventure hasn't been like getting a boat, so that the only days you really enjoy it are the day you get it and the day you get rid of it. So I hope this is going to be a little better than that. But tomorrow's my birthday, so this is my birthday present, is this 95 camper van.
Hi, I'm Scott. Yes, I go with Janet. And now that she got such an elaborate birthday present, she has to get me an equally elaborate one. You know, there's a few problems when you're getting old. You start doubting your own the strength of memory. And I was at a new job, and I felt like I know where all the folders are. I just can't find the tabs for them, kind of a feeling. And I was really getting down on myself and losing all hope and all. And then in the early afternoon, I got a chance to talk to someone that I had talked to 10 days before. They've been calling about every other day. And they were mad as heck because if we sent they sent the overnight address thing in, then we should be able to send it right back. And I looked at what's been happening with it and says, sir, she was just trying to get things going, but if she inferred in any way that it was ready, she was wrong. It's still got a way to go. And he was mad at the company, but he wouldn't take it out on me. I was the only one that told it to him straight both times. He's ready to fire the whole corporation and hire me. Made me feel like I'm back on top again. So there's for that. And one for the worry. And then one of my coworkers pointed this sheet of statistics we get. No one's ever explained this sheet of statistics to us. And she said, see this one over here? This is the one that gets you the bonus or doesn't get you the bonus. And she pointed out to me that I'm 0.12 of a point too low. Well, there goes back in the grump again.
So hello, my name is Deb. And I have to share it. I know everything's going a little bit long here, but for the last 2 weeks, I had my daughter and son-in-law and 4-year-old grandson at my home because they live in Pierre and had some difficulties with my 4-year-old grandson's birth, so their doctor said, probably should be in Sioux Falls just because, you know, Jenny has type 1 and all that. And the book that you read for the children's time, I need to get that. I worked for 2 weeks on, well, not worked, but it was fun for 2 weeks. Owen really learned a bit about truth and meaning, you know, or I guess meaning, you know, in the stones I have in bowls and the, you know, the feathers and the things I keep, and he'd say, why? And, you know, so it was really fun. It was like, yeah, I saw the purpose of being an elder, of being a grandmother, isn't just a hi on FaceTime or just spend a couple days going to, you know, gymnastics or whatever. It's actually spending time, and that was really a gift. And Jenny had Ella Rose on Monday, and everything was perfect and everything was fine. And then they went back home, and I'm maybe going to get that book and read it on FaceTime to Owen. So thank you very much for being here.
Shall we sing happy birthday to Janet?
Just a couple quick ones. My uncle finally got out of the I'm Allison. My uncle finally got out of the hospital. He's been in for 3 weeks, most of it in the ICU for lung clots, blood clots in his lungs. So, yeah, it's Scott. That should seem familiar, but a lot of complications for him. He's not out of the woods, and his whole life was about to change. So that's for him, and hopes that he will continue to recover. My grandfather did not recognize me for the first time, so that was difficult. But on a much happier joy, my brother got married. So he was scheduled to get married in May, and he will still have a wedding in May, but due to the recent election, his wife is not from the United States, and they decided they'd better get moving on immigration paperwork and such. So they decided to have a small wedding. So with a very excited and enthusiastic judge who was very pleased. So we got to have a very nice wedding. And so that was a joy. So.
Hello, relatives. My name is Rose. I do have a prayer concern. For the last, I don't know how many years, there are 9 sisters that have been coming from Minnesota to the legislature in Pierre every January. They were part of the group of children that were sexually abused at Marty Indian School when it was run by the Catholic Church. South Dakota is the only state that put a cap on how many years back you can go to file against abusers for sexual abuse. Other states have elongated that and allowed people who are in their 70s, 80s to file, but South Dakota is the only state that put a cap on that. And one of the things that has kind of worked against us is the Catholic Church in Wisconsin declared bankruptcy. All of the cases that were being filed against them, all of a sudden all their assets got moved mysteriously to some other place, and they filed for bankruptcy. So all of the one sisters, I think there were 9 sisters originally that came from Minnesota, that were brought from Minnesota and taken to Marty. 3 of them have passed away. That's how long ago this has happened. But they come every year, and one sister says, all we want is an apology. We saw the power of apology when the President of the United States, Biden, offered apologies in behalf of the abuse that had gone on with the Native people. How powerful that was, that one of the powerful leaders, world leaders, took time to say, we're sorry. We apologize for all the years of abuse, for taking your land, stealing your children. I offer you an apology. Some have said that isn't enough, but that to me is a huge start. About the same time Biden offered that apology, there was another apology issued from the U.S. Navy commander in Alaska. Many years, the Native Alaskans would work on these whaling ships. And when an accident happened and one of the Native workers got killed, the other workers took his body back to the village. They kept it in wake for 2 days, as is our custom. And the whaling ship was saying, why aren't you getting back to work? You're supposed to bury that person and be done. We, however, take time, and in our grieving, we feed the people, we tell stories about that life, we celebrate that life, and for us that takes time. It was 3 days. The commander of that whaling ship was so outraged that those workers did not return that he ordered them to bomb the village. That village was decimated. Nothing had ever been done to reconcile, to amend that great tragic wrong that was done to the people. However, one of the U.S. captains in the Navy today felt the need to take the time, learn about the story, learn that there was a cultural, they weren't not coming back because they were protesting the death. They were not coming back out of disrespect. They were honoring their traditions, which is so important for us as Native people, to honor who we are, honor our identity, our traditions, our culture. That is who we are as a people. He took the time to learn about that. And then he wrote to the government, he filed paperwork to be able to officially offer this apology to the tribal leaders. And it showed pictures of people crying, saying, this has been a long time coming. And that was one step towards healing. So as the legislature convenes in January again, I want you to be aware of what the bill about sexual abuse, especially when in regard to the Catholic Church. Watch the news, write letters, support these sisters that come from Minnesota looking for an apology. Find out what you can do to actively set in place in South Dakota rules, laws, because that's how this government works. They have to put a law in place so that these wrongs can be acknowledged, an apology and reconciliation can happen for our state. So do I put the whole bowl in there? Thank you.
We'll just pause for a moment to recognize all of those concerns and then if you'd like to join me with the next song before the reading, which is I Seek the Spirit of a Child, number 338 in this book. I'll search with you. On to 518 is the reading towards the end of the book, please. And we can just do the same. I'll do the regular text and you can repeat in unison to the italics. Grandfather, look at our brokenness. We know that we are the ones who are divided. Grandfather, Sacred One, teach us love, compassion, and honor. From the Ojibwe Indians of North America. Thank you. So our speaker today is Leslie Crow, and she's from the school. She's the principal from the school. But first, I want to introduce Rose, and I think she's still here, isn't she? Oh, there she is. Okay, and Leslie walked away then. And so, Rose, as I mentioned previously, Rose and I were introduced to each other in the late 90s, I think is when it was, sometime, a mutual friend, and I'd mentioned to her that I wanted to go to China. I wanted to go overseas, basically. I wanted to go overseas. I had an interest in China. I have a brother who's a sister-in-law who's Chinese, and my brother had married her, and I had a big interest in going overseas, and I was getting acupuncture and stuff, but that's a long story. And she introduced me to the Freeman, folks down in Freeman, the Mennonite Central Committee, and I joined with them and went to China for 2 years and taught English over there, and met, many of you have seen my wife, Lou, who I met while I was over there. And Rose, just a small introduction. I am kind of running short on time, but Rose and her husband Jay and their grandson Louis are creating a home in Vermilion, drawing from various communities to enrich their lives with connections through relationships, ceremony, cultural events, both indigenous and non-indigenous. To hear Rose's story is a witness to the strength and resilience of the indigenous peoples in the face of great adversity. Although she is a survival of dominant society's attempt to annihilate her people and their culture, she has lived long enough to see her granddaughter and her sister's first grandchild return to their culture, their rich heritage, to indigenous children living with their family homes in indigenous communities, coming full circle. Rose's echoes her birth mother's first words upon opening her front door to see Rose stand there after seeing her since she was taken at the age of 2. Our many prayers have been answered. And Rose is honored and takes pride to stand with Leslie and call her Takoja, grandchild, as her older sister Marlis has found great pleasure in doing. Rose.
So we've got this thing about reading off our phones now. Aho Matakawa saying, I greet you as a native in my own language, and I'm asking permission of my elders to speak before you. I said that phrase at a recent gathering, and I looked around, and I was the elder. My name is Rose Bazemore. I'm from the Hunktua Teoshpe, as my mother, Sophie Rose Songhawk, was, as we are maternal in our lineage. My father, Asa Arthur Dog Soldier, was from Rosebud, the Sinkahu Teoshpe. And I was given my Indian name, Hehunka Ahompomi, Elk Dawn Woman, by Albert Whitehat. I don't know if some of you have heard of Albert. He was an educator at Sinte Glashkata University there and has written several books. He was a much-loved elder and respected educator in Rosebud. He was a friend of my father's. Elk is a powerful medicine. And dawn, because of the beauty of my culture and power of my cultural birthright, is only just dawning onto my journey. I was adopted out. I was taken from my family when I was 2 and did not know anything about my heritage. I grew up in Brazil and very far away from South Dakota. There are no words in any language I know, Portuguese, which I spoke growing up in Brazil, English or German, as my captors spoke, or Dakota, my native language, that could possibly express the deep love and pride which wells up inside of me when I see or share about my Takoja Leslie, my sister Marlis's firstborn grandchild. After living a life with looking for direction, she turned her life around and graduated from college as a single mother. She excelled in college as an athlete and worked hard to provide a stable home for her little son. Leslie has chosen to make her home on the Rosebud Reservation for the last 10 years, with the goal to totally immerse herself and her son in the indigenous culture. Leslie has become a sun dancer, completed her master's degree, and learning the language as her and her partner live to make a difference in a community that is struggling to find their identity after centuries of oppression. While working full-time as a principal to 3 remote elementary schools, creating a home for her family, Leslie runs an online indigenous clothing business. Which I am wearing her skirt today, I must say, if you'd like to take a look and order this skirt. She participates in fashion shows as well as educational conferences, traveling nationwide as well as internationally. She loves to travel and is always up for a new adventure. I give to you my beautiful niece, Leslie.
Can you hear me well? Okay. I don't know if this goes. There we go. Okay. Well, if I could have you all stand up. I told you I was an educator. I used to be a kindergarten teacher, 5th grade teacher. Taught everything. I taught everything from Indian studies to PE. I taught PE in college. I taught music and art to elementary teachers in college, so they could be elementary teachers in college. So I just want you to do some cross-body action. Do like this. Do some cross-body action. It's good for the brain. We've been sitting a while, and once my kindergartners are sitting for a while, I make them stand up and I make them move, because movement for our young child's brains it activates synapses in their brain. It helps them develop their brain so that they can learn. Okay, go ahead, have a seat. It's good to stretch. So I think I'll start with my family. Rose kind of introduced me, in the Lakota way. We introduce our families first. So her mother is my great-grandmother, Sophie Songkhak Archambault. She was a full-bloody Hangtawan. My grandmother, her sister, was Marlis Songkhak, dog soldier. And if you know anything about Lakota culture, we are a very matriarchal society. And I hold Rose, my grandmother, my great-grandmother, very dear to my heart. They are like, they are everything to me. So that's that. And then my mother's name is Lisa Miller, and she was a she also had the journey of being a single mom and raising me and my brother and my sister, and became a nurse, a registered nurse. So she worked for the IHS for many years. My father was incarcerated, and so my stepfather stepped up when I was 1 year old. He was a construction worker. He also became a tribal officer for many, many years. So I had a very good upbringing with a nurse and a tribal officer home. I had a sister and a brother who I love so much. My sister is so funny. My brother, so kind and so gentle. He's like 6'2". So and I had a really, really good home. I felt I had a really good home versus what I seen some of my relatives, my indigenous relatives had. So I felt very lucky, and I was very grateful for that upbringing. Also went to a public school, and that's where it got hard. That's where it was a little difficult to be one person in this public school where I was looking for acceptance, as a young child and indigenous teenager in a very non-indigenous space. And I had to, change, from home to go into this public school. It was difficult. But I did excel. I had all A's. I was on the Roll of Excellence. I was on the basketball team. I went to the state gymnastics tournament as a 7th grader. I was the only 7th grader who was allowed to participate on the varsity track team amongst all of my white counterparts. So I was very proud of that. And then I got to be a little bit older and, started to understand the disconnect in between who I was and what the world around me accepted. And I have to admit, I was a people pleaser. I tried to please the people that had the power in the community, in the society, and I decided that I was no longer going to do that anymore. So I went back to my reservation where my grandma lived, and I went to the Crow Creek High School, and I went there, and it was so good to be with my grandmother. It was so good to be with her, to pick choke cherries in the summertime, watch her cook, her yeast bread, and make Indian tacos. And it was just so good to be in such a secluded area, because in Crow Creek, there's nothing. There's nothing, but that's how maybe the world would see it, but it was still so full of life. We didn't have the buildings, we didn't have the roads, we didn't have the stoplights, but that is what I needed. I was in the nature. I walked through the creeks. I swam in the creeks. We got to see, animals running freely everywhere, and that I knew was for me. That was my environment. But as you know, when I was talking to Carol, she mentioned how sometimes, what is going on? All of these drugs and all this alcohol and all of these things that are going on the reservation that are not our culture. And I said, that's right. You're definitely right. That doesn't make any sense. That is not a part of our culture. That is a part of the oppression that is still, the cycle, and as Rose spoke to, and that can get heavy. That gets really heavy, and I felt that there. I felt that at the Crow Creek High School. I felt the oppression. I felt the heaviness. And if you've seen recently in the news, Crow Creek Tribal Schools has been on the news. They just found a graveyard of children just recently, about a week ago, and so they're doing an investigation into that. But I could feel it, and that's what affects so many of our children there, and I was one of those children in high school there who got into the drugs, who got into the alcohol. I went to jail for the first time ever in my life, and my parents were appalled by that. But I wanted to be like the children who were there, who were living in this every single day, and I wanted to be a part of them, to show them that I was there for them. And that's where I met my son's father. And I was pregnant at 17. And I had my son Ray 3 days before my high school graduation. And everyone was in shock because I was this student athlete, excelling in life. But, everybody was like shocked. I guess you could say they were shocked at me being pregnant, and I had to make a choice on what to do next with my life, because he was also a young student athlete, and he decided to go for his dreams, and I had to put mine on hold. And I had to raise our son alone. And I was a single mother for a very long time, probably up until 10 years ago, until I moved to Rosebud. So I was a single mother for a very long time. And that was my choice. I chose to stay a single mother because I focused on myself, on becoming an educated person so that I could thrive in this world and also be a good mother to my son. And he was my first and will always be my number one priority. And I tell him that all the time. I said, you're my pride and joy. You are my world. And now we got Creed, who's my other pride and joy in my world. So, I had Ray. I struggled in college. I went to Dakota Wesleyan in Mitchell. I was a student athlete there, started in basketball, and I would get up at 6 o'clock in the morning to go to practice, take him to my auntie so she could watch him, go to school from 8 to like 3, pick him up, spend some time with him, go back to practice, and then pick him up for a few hours, feed him, and then I would do my homework, and I wouldn't go to bed till maybe 1 or 2 in the morning. And I did this every single day for a whole semester. And it was wearing. I got really sick. I got pneumonia. I got bronchitis just because, staying up so late and trying to do all the things all by myself. And it was tough. So I eventually quit basketball. I lost my basketball scholarship, but I needed to make money. I needed to make money, and I started working at Marlin's restaurant, the truck stop there on the highway, and that's a whole story in itself. I used to walk to work, which was probably like 5 miles because I didn't have a car. I had a moped, so sometimes I would drive my moped and I would sit right in front of me, and he would stand there, and I would drive him to daycare, and then I would go to work. But before that, I would walk. So we had a moped in the wintertime. And then I'm trying to look at the time too. I only got a little bit left. So, but I did eventually end up moving home and finishing my bachelor's degree at home through the St. Glasgow University. My parents were separated at the time, and my mom needed help taking care of the home and paying bills. So I went home. I started student teaching. I started coaching middle school basketball and high school basketball. I finished my degree, and then I started teaching kindergarten at the Marty Indian School, where my grandma, when they were little, was taken. They were taken from Grandma Sophie. And my grandma would tell me all these stories, like how they would run away, but they would get caught, and then they would get beat, and all these stories. And I ended up teaching there, which is a whole different environment. But I love children, and I love teaching kindergarten. I love teaching our little ones and letting them know, and because they really need to feel loved. Some of them, they really come from hard households, and I just wanted them to know that they mattered. And I started teaching. I went and enrolled in St. Glasgow again to go for my master's. And I ended up moving to Rosebud because it would just be so much easier to finish my classes there. And then I started working in Todd County. My first year in Todd County was at Spring Creek School, where I am now the principal. The first year there it was like Marty, but it was just a little bit harder. Children wearing the same clothes for days, and we still have those same problems. Our children who are getting pulled into these fictitious gang lives, and all of the hardships that come with living in such a secluded area without any resources. So I'm so grateful that you all are coming together to help our little school on the reservation that's in so much need of help and resources. I graduated with my master's in 2020, and they asked me to apply to be the principal. And at first I had Lakeview, Hedog, and Spring Creek all on my roster while I was pregnant with Creed. So imagine being pregnant, trying to run 3 schools. My co-principal, who is now our superintendent, I had a joke with her the other day. I said, remember when we used to have 3 schools? And we were like, where are we going today? So that was cool. But anyway, yeah, this has just been such a journey so far. I am grateful for every day. There's pieces in this story that are very hard. Domestic violence to where I was almost killed, but I'll share that for another time. I think I'm out of time, and I hope that I've had some time to enlighten you, and I just want you all to know that your existence and your value, you're here for a reason. We're all here for a reason, no matter how hard it gets. And thank you for your time, and I hope to share more at our talking circle. Right? Yeah, okay.
Yes, thank you very much, Leslie Rose. And we will have a talking circle at about probably about 11:30. We're going to probably jump through a few things here. First, we have our offering, and we've got some special music here that's being offered by JC and Dan here, so we'll turn right over to that. And I'll pass the offering around, and half of all of our offering today does go to Crow Creek School. Todd County. Rosebud. And if you would join with me in thanking you all for these gifts. We give these gifts freely. We receive these gifts gratefully. We dedicate these gifts to the work of our congregation, serving human wholeness, caring for our planet, upholding religious freedom, welcoming the stranger, loving one another. And why don't we move right to the final. I'll extinguish the chalice, and then we'll go right to the postlude. So I will extinguish the chalice, and please read the italics below. Carol. Thank you very much, Carol. And so there are coffee and there are some treats downstairs. I brought a pumpkin pie, and there's cream in the half of a pumpkin pie that was left over. So there was whipped cream in the refrigerator, so make sure you get that. And we'll see you back up here. Let's try to get here right at 25 after, and we'll have a circle where we can talk more with Rose and Leslie. And Rose, you had something?
I did have something quick before we dismiss. Can somebody just bring one of the gifts that you're sending to the reservation? Can someone just bring that in here, please? I would like to pray a special blessing on what you have donated, what people have donated, to give thanks for this gift. If you heard about the children that'll be receiving these gifts, and we'll just set them down here and say a quick prayer of thanksgiving. Tonkashla wakantanka wopila chicha. Thank you. Thank you for generous hearts. Thank you for opening our minds to other people in their needs. Thank you for empathy, compassion, generosity. And as these gifts travel to the little ones, we pray a special blessing on those little ones. You know the difficulties they find themselves in at times. You know the hardships they suffer. But let them know they are loved. We send these gifts out with so much love and help them to feel that. Thank you for the connection, the relationship you're building between this community and those children. We're grateful for that and grateful for Leslie, which is our bridge between them. Oh, matakawase.
Thank you all.